today. So it's Thomas Jersey, the CEO of Deutsche Telekom Security and the Chief Security Officer of Deutsche Telekom.
Welcome, everybody.
And Thomas Mazicek, the Senior Vice President for Cybersecurity within T-Systems.
Welcome.
So the cyber resilience in general is a very hot topic in all our clients and all about the capabilities to push the digital transformation. So I will give now the word to Thomas to start about how we are going to support our clients in this specific topic.
It's crazy, and we make it easy for you guys because we have Thomas and Thomas here. So welcome from my side. First of all, I have to apologize myself as I have a slight cold. So I will took my part rather short and to left some space for the other Thomas here to fill then. Let's first look on Deutsche Telekom Group here. So what is Deutsche Telekom Group about? And I try to keep this as short as possible. We have a couple of million mobile customers, around 245 million mobile customers. We have 25,000 fixed line customers and 21,000 broadband and 8.3 million TV customers. So huge customer base, mainly driven in Europe and the US. We have, in addition to that, with our T-Systems part, which is today represented by Thomas here, a presence in more than 50 countries all over the world. We have global customers also consuming cyber security services from us here. From the revenue numbers, I guess you're all familiar with these numbers. It's here just on the slide, and the group is consisting out of more than 200,000 employees. I can tell you in security, we have around about 1,800 out of these employees working in security. So let's have a deeper look on security on the next slide and the global presence we're serving in. So you see some figures on the right-hand side, like the attack surface we have, and I'm going to share some insights what we observe these days in a minute. But first of all, look to the presence here. Of course, we're mainly based in the DACH region. This is the strongest part for security. But you also see we have North and South America, but also Asia as production sites to support our global customers. It's not that case that we're only in DACH region, even if it's the strongest part of Deutsche Telekom Security. But we follow our customers and we provide global kind of services here. To the attack surface and snapshots here from the last months, you can see the 200 gigabit per second largest DDoS attack we were facing last month. To be precisely here, it's not an attack on ourselves, it's an attack we saw in our backbone network. What we see in the backbone is around 30,000 of those DDoS attacks a single month. The average volume is around 10 gigabit per second, enough to bomb most of the connected data centers out of the orbit, I would say. So it's a huge threat. We identified in just a single month 715 new botnet servers and blocked them. So we do have blockings in place to protect our customers. We're also sending out abuse notices to our infected customers or customers we see by our black hole systems and by our sinkholes being infected with bots. So around 100,000 or 120,000 notifications to them, mainly by classical analog letters. Because if you just notify them by email, this is treated as spam as well. So therefore, huge effort here in protecting our customer base. But in addition to all that, we're also providing the digital security services to them, which is then not, of course, implemented in our generic service offering. What we see, and maybe stay a moment on the slide before, what we see these days, and everybody's talking about the threat landscape and the development caused by the Russian invasion in the Ukraine. But what we see in real is that the DDoS attacks have slightly changed in the last months, more in that way that in the past DDoS was happening in a way that first the attack happened, then you got a blackmail afterwards, and if you were paying the ransom, the original attack came back. These days, we observe the same kind of behavior without asking for ransom. So it's not blackmailing anymore, which bring us to the conclusion that the threat actors, before working on their own buckets, now mainly supporting Russian regime and Russian government activities here. Same with attacks in the EU. So we see a lot of what we would call sniper attacks facing against specific targets, mainly in the Ukraine. So they try to avoid spillover effect like we have seen in 2014 when the Russian invasion on the Crimea happened. There was the Petya, no Petya stuff, which was spillover to the entire globe. These days we see more sniped, more focused attacks here on specific targets and not so much broader shoots into the entire internet. And yeah, that's mainly what we see. It's not so much of an increase in the rest of Europe, but in the Ukraine, it's massive and it's huge. So next slide, please. These are some numbers which we compiled here from Bitkom, from Checkpoint and others. I guess you're all familiar with that. So the main message here is the impact is huge. We can only estimate the real impact, and these tremendous high numbers really showing we do have a problem here. We need to act on that. But at the same time, also the awareness is tremendously raising up for the cyber attack, but nevertheless, a lot of companies feel somehow helpless here, so have no idea how to protect themselves because of the growing complexity we see in digitization. The impact on the GDP, and this is the next slide we have, is also massive. We're talking about up to 15% potential GDP impact on the digitization or faulty digitization, which is a massive turn in growth for our economies here if we fail here. So therefore it's really essential to have a digital resilience strategy in place and to support that growth. Otherwise, we will definitely here fail, but I guess also that is pretty well known from all of your perspectives. I have brought a slight deep dive on networks with me because I find this important to share with you guys here. So in the past, and also this is no really news here, but nevertheless, when you talk to at least smaller companies, it's still a big challenge for them. In the past, it was like you built your fence around the entire infrastructure, pretty good, protected, everything out of importance inside the fence and connected through a fence to the evil internet. This has changed tremendously. And today, it's more like on the right-hand side, it's decentralized networks, it's cloudified workers, not only cloudified applications. At least after the pandemic, we have learned to work out of the cloud or out of the home office, or however you would like to call it. And if you look in this picture, it's just compiled out of 10, 15 icons here. In real, it's a couple of hundreds if you have a look into a classical modern IT deployment in an enterprise. And this growing complexity to manage, it's becoming hard. It's really a hard job to get that under control. And we hear a lot about of new kind of deployments like SD-WAN, which is replacing the classical fence approach with building the networks specifically for corporate. but you can here heavily fail if you don't do it in the right way. And on the next slide, we put that piece together. Mainly when talking about these modern network architectures, we talk about the upper two puzzle pieces here. It's security and SD-WAN. But this is under the assumption that internet is available everywhere in a good quality. But this is not the case. Internet is still best effort medium. And if everybody is moving from the classical corporate networks into internet, we will see the result here, as then we're all fighting on the shared bandwidth here and to get our fair share here, and this will totally fail. And therefore, we believe very strongly here, we need to build an underlay which is somehow quality of service internet to ensure quality of services, and that might be compiled with classical SD-WAN solutions like you see today, just pure software based on internet stack. And the combination out of that, for instance, with a good underlay for your data centers, but if talking like an airline, for instance, the data center is connected with underlay premium internet, but the check-in counter in Sao Paulo airport is, of course, only connected via local Wi-Fi and with a SD-WAN and SASE solution by software. This is what I believe is the future about, the combination out of the classical SD-WAN approaches we're talking about today, combined with more carrier-grade solution. And there's another advantage we are working on as Deutsche Telekom here, as we have the networks, as we have the customers identified with their SIM cards in the mobile phones, for instance, we can easily use network APIs to connect to those environments. So out of a sudden, we can identify the customers where they are connected, whether they are connected with the right device, the intended device, whether they are connected with the intended ID, like the SIM card, and we can build premium services around that, which brings us here in a unique position in that classical SD-WAN game. I would call it, it's an SD-WAN 2.0 game we're working on here. So in a nutshell, the change, and we see that on the next slide, protect everything is the past. What we did in the future, it's more verify everything. Security added afterwards and dedicated patch cycles was also the past, even if it's still not solved for many of the enterprises. It should be more sprints with security by design, and with modern technology like cloud technology, it's very easy to, whenever you deploy a new code, to start a fresh container which is fully patched, so to get rid of this complexity problem. And security as a cost item was also more the item of the past. In future, it's more security as the business and quality enabler and ensuring the continuity here. So investing in security ensures business quality and outcomes in future. This is what we're strong believers on. And what that means in detail, I hand over now for that to Thomas here, talking about cyber resilience and what we're doing here.
Yeah, well, warm welcome from my side. Yeah, we are in a definitely time of a lot of changes. The geopolitical situation in Europe has changed almost everything we were familiar with the last years. The threat landscape is evolving, as Thomas has enrolled now. And therefore also the topic around business resilience in general is something which got in the mind of every stakeholder on the management level of our customers and the companies in Europe. And cyber resilience is one important part of it. And therefore, we also defined that cyber resilience is one of our core initiatives we want to support our customers to be resilient. And the first topic is what we also experience, that many customers do not even know which strategy they should implement, which techniques they should use, what they need from an organizational point of view. And therefore, we have developed there also an offering which gives the customer the ability to detect threats, to respond to it, and to even mitigate. because you cannot prevent 100% of threats do not happen within your company. You have to be prepared if something happens that you can deal with it. Therefore, the core for this is an integrated risk management. We as Deutsche Telekom are really seriously taking care about our risks, prioritizing them and taking the appropriate measures. The learnings out of this, we now also use as a methodology to help our customers to deal with those risks, to get a better prioritization, to take care about where to focus on, where to invest the existing money, the existing budget for cybersecurity.
If I may add to that, we have the experience here together for 20 plus years in protecting a critical infrastructure.
Yeah. And this is a huge asset where we can also help our customers with all of our knowledge. But what we also see is that the cybersecurity culture, even the awareness, is in many companies not existing in a way as it should be. It starts with how we deal with privileged access, privileged accounts, I would say all the following the regulations, the policies. For sure, it's something existing on paper, but many companies do not execute it and also do not measure if the measures are successful. We also have established specialized teams who help our customers to monitor, analyze, and respond faster to threats. And last but not least, we're also helping insurance companies to serve their cyber insurance services, to help them to assess the risk they are covering, as well as this is also a valid measure to take care about the residual risk, because you cannot cover everything. Around this resilience story, and this we will see on the next slide, we've placed, I would say, the most important challenges from our customers. And we use those challenges to even, I would say, use it also as a portfolio list, because behind each challenge, we have placed a list of offerings which helps our customers to deal with those challenges. And from our perspective and what we are seeing in our customer landscape, zero trust, compliance, secured agility, as well as cloud security are currently the most important challenges in the area of cyber resilience. I want to start with zero trust. It's all about, Thomas has told us, the transformation from traditional infrastructure to decentralized servers. The customers are transforming to cloud, to the use of cloud systems. People are working from everywhere. Also in our offices, people, I would say, normally 1 to 2 days in the home office. Therefore, they're no longer in the office in a fully protected environment. Therefore, the protection level has to be brought to every component, to every application, to every notebook which is moving through the landscape. It's also about identifying the people, the person who is sitting behind the PC, the machine, and also identifying the laptop, the asset themselves. Therefore, taking care about identities, taking care about how everybody is connected in this world, having the possibility to access all the applications, all the resources from home. And there we have developed a service around that I will present in a few minutes. The next topic is compliance. Also, we have meanwhile a lot of different certifications we have to comply with. In the past, it was only ISO 27001. Now we have BaFin, we have NIST, we have TISAX, and many, many, many more. And what we are also seeing that our customers are struggling with being able to be aligned with all the requirements coming out of those standards. And this getting even more complex if we're going to the cloud, because then you have multiple heterogeneous infrastructures. We have established there also a service around to help the customers to be compliant from an organizational perspective, to plan it, as well as protecting the whole infrastructure, finding the vulnerabilities, the core risks, and mitigating them.
To get back the overview on the complexity.
Yeah. The next topic is everything around secured agility. This is a framework we have generated, which summarizes at the end the transformation to the cloud, the working from everywhere, as well as the new way of work, how companies are acting, the agile structure of how projects meanwhile are organized. This is changing a lot. the transformation in several cases to multi-cloud environments makes it quite complex to be able to ensure a homogeneous security level as well as handling security incidents. Because there you have different stakeholders, different suppliers, you have to coordinate them. And this makes it quite complex for our customers. There we have defined, I would say, a set of security services which helps our customers to deal with those. And last but not least, cloud security. At the end, it sounds simple. Move something to the hyperscaler cloud, everything is protected because it's coming out of the box. But at the end, it's not. You have to take care about so many different aspects. How you connect your premises to the cloud, how you manage the access to applications, to resources, how you back up all your applications, and everything around there, how you deal with all the different trusts, users and devices who must access those cloud resources. This is a quite challenging act for our customers. Yeah, and on the next slide, I will go a little bit deeper about what's in behind. In the area of zero trust, for sure, this is our identity, our history. Thomas has already mentioned it shortly. We're combining connectivity as well as security, putting both together to our Magenta SASE solution. This is more than less a comprehensive integrated SASE solution which combines connectivity as well as security and giving the customer the ability to have everything out of one hand. It's a cloud-based service where we can also ensure that network security techniques which are available out of our landscape of core partners like Fortinet, like Palo Alto, help us to ensure the security level in the infrastructure of our customers. Yeah, and even if the number of, I would say, threats are evolving, we can ensure with this service that the security as well as the connectivity, even also with service levels in behind, will be kept on an adequate level. We connect remote users, we connect branch offices, as well as data and services in the cloud together. We protect the applications, for instance, with all the different cloud application security services in behind. Yeah, the cloud-based solution also consolidates a lot of different solutions we have also seen in the past, are mostly located on the customer premise and traditional firewalls. Now we can ensure that the same security level is available over the whole infrastructure, independently if this resource is located on-site on the customer premise or in any of the hyperscaler clouds. Therefore, the customer has the best flexibility to use the best technique for the specific use case he wants to realize. And one further advantage for the customer is he has a much higher flexibility and less complexity when it comes to the integration, because it's the same solution over the whole landscape the customer is using. Therefore, he can quickly scale up in case of he has to drive some campaigns, he needs new workloads. He can do it with the same level, with the same security in behind, and we take care about everything on the security side. Yeah, we also can minimize the number of security products, because even if we have more products used on the customer side, the complexity is rising. Therefore, we have single solution operated by Telecom, which delivers the best level of security for our customers. And last but not least, we work closely together with the global hyperscaler to get also the best connectivity from the customer premise with the necessary level of security to the cloud platforms the customer is using. As mentioned, we have there 3 core offerings. It's our Magenta SASE story, or the SSE story when it's only about security. In addition, when it comes to, I would say, getting there a more granular security into the network infrastructure, we're serving our customers with microsegmentation services, which enables them to have a much more granular security architecture based on an application firewalling, where you can limit even each application who can connect to each other, and therefore it's quite much more difficult for attackers to do a lateral movement because there are so many different segments implemented, at least without raising the complexity. Because in the past, when you do it on a network level, it's complex, it's static, and you have a lot of configuration tasks instead of making it on a software basis. And last but not least, and it's normally the first step, it's the professional services. Because zero trust is a buzzword, everybody knows, but everybody understands something different behind it. And therefore, we also help our customers to develop their zero trust architecture stories, to define an implementation roadmap, to define where to start with, what are the next steps, and how to implement it successfully, and to ensure that, I would say, in the past, already established security level can be kept, but even increased where necessary. Okay, this was about zero trust. Okay, then let's jump.
So let me add to that one very important topic here. When we're talking about this new kind of approaches, you may argue, why us? Why T-Systems, why Deutsche Telekom Group here in that game? So we do have some comprehensive offerings here together with Teridion implemented, where we can really drive the entire stack over premium internet. So using global backbones of hyperscalers with dynamic routing algorithms to provide quality of service internet on global scale. Even in countries like China, we're able to serve our customers with quality of service internet connectivities here. And that's a differentiator compared to all other competitors on the marketplace. And the second thing, and that may sound a little crazy for a network operator, a company with its roots in a network operator, we're subsidizing here the corporate networks, not only in the wide area network sites, but also in the office buildings themselves. So zero trust enables you really to equip your office building with pure native internet connectivity. All the rest is being delivered out of the cloud, out of the client computers. So it's really helping you as a customer reducing complexity in a tremendous way and to get a more efficient setup for future networks.
Okay, the next topic on our agenda list is compliance. As already mentioned, there are so many different standards also we have to comply with, as well as our customers. And as well as we have already implemented this too. We have at least, and this is the first example here, an assessment methodology developed, as well as a concept how to achieve a NIST readiness, where we help our customers to comply with. This is part of our professional services in the compliance section. Therefore, NIST2, BaFin, and all those different standards, we have their implementation guidelines. And with these implementation guidelines, we can even help our customers when they're at the beginning, when they're starting with the implementation of those standards, to define the roadmap, to define the implementation plan, and afterwards also deliver them the necessary services, which helps to fulfill the requirements which are part of our cyber resilience offering. We as a Deutsche Telekom Group are operating hundreds of thousands of servers. Therefore, all those requirements we have seen here, like taking care about vulnerabilities, proactively finding them and also reporting them, and also taking care about the mitigation, is a huge challenge. And therefore, we have also developed services which helps us to do this. And based on what we're doing internally, we also have developed services for our customers. The first, I already mentioned, is everything around vulnerability management. Proactively finding and reporting those, prioritizing them based on the exposure within the landscape, and afterwards also helping our customers to get rid of. The next topic is everything around the guidance, how to fix those things, how to reduce the risks which are caused by open weaknesses. Every week there is a new vulnerability released, and most of our customers are not able to patch their systems as quickly as they're released. And even it's not possible due to some dependencies about business process and so on.
By the way, it's an average 200 new vulnerabilities every week. Huh?
And this is ridiculous because if you're thinking back on 10 years ago, this was the number of even, I would say, 1 month. Now we have it in a much shorter time frame. Yeah. Therefore, the challenge is meanwhile much stronger than in the past. With our, I would say, continuous assessment methodology, we can even also assess internal and external IT assets to see where are vulnerabilities, how critical they are, and where to focus on to immediately mitigate the most important threats. We have also, there is 360-degree visibility of even also configuration gaps, because vulnerabilities are already mentioned, because even also a configuration gap could lead to a quite severe incident. We're therefore not only focusing on the vulnerabilities themselves, we're also focusing on an adequate configuration of the IT infrastructure. Yeah, next step is based on this assessment methodology. We also help our customers to overall improve the security posture. In many cases, the customer isn't aware, for instance, that test systems or quality management systems are available from the internet. And they're mostly not up to date, they're not patched. In some cases, there are access available for testing purposes. But via these entry doors, attackers may probably attack the company, get access into the infrastructure, and afterwards they can lateral move within the infrastructure.
And often also these systems containing real life data, yes, and not only tests and synthetic data.
It should be, but in many cases it's unfortunate.
By the way, we can help with that synthetic data as well.
Yeah. Doing their anonymization, pseudonymization, if you need, for instance, real data, because this is also a challenge for many customers, even if it would be a compliance regulation out of the GDPR, for instance, not to use personal data in test systems. Yeah, next topic here on the list is the automated patching and compliance solution. We use the same for our infrastructure IT systems because we have to check it on a weekly basis if everything is configured adequately. And out of this technique, these platforms we have developed, we can help our customers to identify potential deviations and to initiate the mitigation, the remediation of those findings. From an offering level, it's for sure the vulnerability management, vulnerability remediation and prioritization service, which is, I would say, a standardized service we are offering to our customers on essential service basis. Everything around hardening management, we have there a huge list of hardening guidelines for all the common operating systems. As mentioned, our NIST2 assessment, integrated risk management approach based on our governance, risk and compliance services and platforms. They have also the cloud platforms in behind, which helps our customers to manage all those requirements from the compliance side, as well as managing the risks in our platforms, which gives them much better transparency as well as visibility to focus on the real important risks to mitigate them. Okay, jumping to the next topic. It's the secured agility. As mentioned, it's quite, I would say, a challenge. And remember to the time when Corona started. Many companies were even challenged by every employee has to go home.
I apologize, Thomas. We have lost your audio.
Oh,
there we
sorry,
go. You're back.
Sorry for this. I hope now you can hear us again.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, let's restart shortly. Now we're at the secured agility piece. It's everything around protecting all the assets, all the data independently where they're located in. The customers are going from traditional infrastructure to the cloud, working from everywhere. And this needs a totally different set of security, which helps to protect all those assets independently where they are. Therefore, the core system around our managed detection and response service. It's, I would say, a security level which is equipped on every asset independently, if it is in the cloud on-prem or also on the mobiles everybody's taking with them. Therefore, we have at least an EDR, EPP solution 7x24 connected to our full-scale SOC, which enables a continuous analysis as well as an automated trigger of response measures. There we have a predefined set of use cases and scenarios, which helps our customers and also us, because we are using the same technique, to identify potential threats and in many cases also automatically respond to it. This could be, for instance, quarantinization of a process, or even, if necessary, quarantine the whole asset if this is the necessary measure to prevent the attacker to spread within the network. Yeah, it's also about threat hunting, detect sophisticated attackers. For sure, ransomware attacks are still one of the most important threats. But in addition, what we have also seen due to the Ukraine crisis, even to critical infrastructure, we see also targeted attacks, and those are more sophisticated. Therefore, it's really important to have the whole visibility to the infrastructure, being able to identify what is ongoing on all those assets. And normally, an attacker starts with a phishing attack if we want to get access. And therefore, normally emails are opened on endpoints. Therefore, having also those MDR solutions equipped on the endpoint side is one of the most important starting points in the overall securing process.
And this is these days, by the way, the most important defense mechanism. It's really the managed detection and response on the endpoints, which gives you at least the assurance to avoid spillover effects, spread outs of malware through the entire infrastructure. So a lot of companies still on the classical SIEM approach, they're collecting log data, measuring all the log data, but having no clue at the very end how to react on it. And it's really the move into this managed detection and response which matters here.
And we will come shortly after the next slides to a real life example where the customer was in concrete this situation, had a SOC service already installed with a SIEM platform, and at least he was hacked. But there I'll tell you a little bit more in a few seconds. One topic which is also quite important is to have a regular review process to identify also, I would say, structural weaknesses where we have the same, I would say, problem on every system, or where you can identify, for instance, that on every day the same process is generating alarms. Probably it's a fault because of a misconfiguration, but it could also be an attack, and therefore giving the customer the transparency, what is ongoing in his network, is also part of our regular review process we're executing with our customers together. Our services are built upon highly scalable cloud platforms, because some of the assets, as mentioned, are on-prem, some of them in the cloud. And with these cloud platforms, we can scale quite fast if the customer needs. And it is also a possibility to have there a continuous analyzing as well as triggering of automated measures and investigation processes. Those are, in some cases, automated, and if necessary, with also the full-scale SOC in behind, which starts also necessary manual evaluation and analysis on an incident which is identified. Yeah. With the combination of detection and response capabilities, it's quite a powerful instrument which even improves the protection of the customer against cyber threats, because even only the protection mechanism themselves and also the detection, as Thomas mentioned it, with the SIEM is not enough anymore. You need the response capability in addition in the combination of those three puzzle pieces. Yeah, we also help our customers to protect the data and the infrastructure through the whole life cycle. This starts with the development process, the CI/CD pipeline, taking care about identified coding faults till when the application is ready. Take, I would say, one snapshot, identify if there is at least something wrong within those code lines, and only if there is, I would say, a security approval, putting it into operation into our server infrastructure. Yeah, those platforms we are using are also using artificial intelligence, behavioral analysis, and we also execute a proactive threat hunting within the threat landscape. There we definitely have a large benefit out of what we see as Deutsche Telekom within our networks.
Let's spend a minute on that topic, because once again here you could argue there are a lot of operators providing the same stack with the same vendors here. What makes us unique is the global scale we have, the global backbone networks we have, and the global sensor networks we have implemented. So we have more than 1,000 sensors distributed over the global internet called honeypots, giving us insights in attacks waves, maybe starting in Japan today, but spilling over to Europe tomorrow. We also have a huge network of telco operators, as we own a lot of subsidiaries, or we call them NatCos, national companies across Europe, but also in the US, which have their sensors implemented in their networks, which have their threat intelligence. So we put that all together in a single source of truth, being able to support our customers with much more knowledge they could ever discover themselves. Yeah, and this is really one of the USPs we have here as such a global operator as we are, and such a global data center provider as we are with T-Systems.
Yeah, and it's like the Formula One car. It's one of the highest techniques on the car sector you can have. But if you're not an expert in knowing how to drive the fastest round,
You will fail, yeah.
You will fail. And therefore, I think it's not only about the technique, because the technique is standard and wouldn't make sense that we develop, for instance, an EDR solution by ourselves. There are experts, but we use those techniques with our core partners together. We have a close collaboration also in developing or in further development of those solutions, that we can get the best out of it in combination with our knowledge. And this can be achieved with a single agent installed on all those different assets. This can be a container, this can be a virtual machine, this can be an ESX virtualization host, this can be also a notebook or a mobile. And with this detection and response capability, we can, I would say, ensure the cyber resilience at the core. Everything else is an addition, but this must be the core of the protection service anyhow. From the key offering, as mentioned, there are the MDR services. One important topic is for sure micro-segmentation within the cloud as well as on-prem. Our professional services, when it comes to defining guidelines and standards, how to handle all those cloud infrastructures, how to establish the adequate security level to comply with the requirements of the customers of our customers. The SSE service in behind of connecting all those different parts of the IT infrastructure, and last but not least, container security. All those services, I would say, highly standardized, can be combined, and therefore it's a modular service where the customer can select which service he needs, combine it to one joint service, which generates afterwards a strong cyber resilience. Yeah, and the last puzzle piece is everything around cloud security. For sure, the core is our cloud native application protection service. It's at the end a protection of the whole infrastructure, starting with the whole development process, taking care about the CI/CD pipeline security, continuously analyzing the code which is generated. If there is, I would say, a typical security issue integrated, if the application is transferred to the test environment, do all the vulnerability scans if there is a fault detected before it comes to the production environment. We also monitor the security posture of our customers, detect and respond to threats within the cloud environments, as well as helping them to maintain the necessary compliance level they have to comply with. We have their services to secure hosts, container, as well as serverless applications across the whole lifecycle. Yeah, we monitor and secure cloud networks, cloud infrastructure, cloud workloads, container infrastructures, as well as enforcing their segmentation with our micro-segmentation services. Therefore, they're the same within the cloud independently if it is one of the hyperscalers as well as if it is an on-prem infrastructure. Last but not least, in a cloud environment, it's quite important to take care about the access rights, the permissions, the identities. Also there we have solutions which ensures that across the whole workload, the cloud infrastructure as well as the on-prem systems, we take care about identifying the people, knowing who is in behind and granting the access according to the identities.
And by the way, this is where we are somehow a hidden champion here in permissions and identities. So with our trust center services, for instance, when you drive one of the famous cars, somehow marked with a star, not to mention the brand. So whenever you open with the keyless entry the car, the key contains digital certificates from us. Whenever you have a mobile phone with a SIM card or an eSIM, it contains a digital certificate from us. So we have millions of these certificates out in the marketplace here, and this is a growing importance in the future. Think about the deepfake kind of technologies taking place these days. In future, how can you know that it's Thomas and me and Alex sitting here in front of you, or whether it's a machine? Could be a new version of video chat GPT or however you would call it. How would you know without digital identities? But this technology is becoming more and more and more important. And one other thing to add before Thomas comes to the key offerings here, there is more to come on that topic, cloud security here. So you can expect a press release very soon on a service we called Fischfang in Germany. It's a fish hunt. So it's really using AI for discovering the attack surface of our customers, and we built a service around that to have more or less a real-time view on the attack exposure you have as an enterprise. Thomas, back to you.
Yeah, the key offerings there are for sure the cloud security consulting, because what we see is that a lot of customers want to go to the cloud, but they do not know how to deal with it, how to migrate from the security perspective, because in many cases you have to rethink the security concept from an application point of view. There we have a lot of consultants which help our customers in an agile way to support their cloud transformation in DevSecOps teams, to also take care about all the security aspects. Cloud security posture management and cloud workload protection for sure, taking care about all the cloud workloads, all the applications, and that are well protected from unauthorized attacks as well as unauthorized access. Cloud network security, at least it's also something you need anyhow, as it was in the tradition. You have to do a network segregation. You have to think about how to build up your cloud infrastructure, how to segregate it. There we also have services as well as the consultancy if the customer do not know how to start with. And last but not least, cloud identity security. As already mentioned, one offering we have there, part of our overall offering landscape. Okay, there we are now at the end of our portfolio description. Now I want to go in a real life experience we have seen in one of our incident response situations. And it's only an example. There are several of those we've seen in the last weeks and months. And unfortunately, there are coming more and more where we have to support our customers in incident response situation. This example here is a manufacturing customer located in the DACH region, and he was attacked by a ransomware group. This attack caused a loss of production capabilities as well as penalties of their customers because the whole production was immediately stopped. Yeah, this company, this organization was, I would say, an average size, typical large, mid-size, low enterprise customer, and therefore, I would say, a well-known company and good, I would say, one of the market leader in his domain. Therefore, it was a quite disruptive situation when the whole production worldwide was immediately stopped. The security mainly was delivered from in-house teams with multiple responsibilities. And you can probably imagine this was also one of the reasons with why the attacker was successful. But what you see also on the next line, the customer had already an in-house SOC with a grown array of tools. Therefore, it was something they have self-developed based on, I would say, good commercial as well as open source tools. And it was not, I would say, implemented fully bad. It generated a specific level of transparency, but unfortunately not enough. IT operation was also operated in a hybrid mode. Therefore, some of the infrastructure was operated locally by the customer themselves. The rest was operated by a service provider. Yeah, and what we identified during the incident when we started with our incident response activity, there were a lot of different issues why the hacker was even successful or could be successful. First of all, there was a legacy mindset in regards of security. What does this mean? Traditional firewalls and so on and traditional antivirus is enough. There we were well protected, but unfortunately it was not enough. Was also lack of security culture. Everybody within the IT department was working with highly privileged accounts. Therefore, it was easy for the attacker to take the hashes of the first PC, which was compromised. And this was a normal laptop. This was not a high secure system because all the software distribution was done with a domain administrator. And therefore, the first PC which was compromised was enough for the attacker to get high privileged access to the whole infrastructure. We also experienced their insufficient and also in some cases false reporting. What does this mean? The management board in many cases do not want to see bad results. And even, for instance, in some infrastructure environments where it belongs to production environments, they're even put it out of the reporting because, they were not able to patch it. For instance, for this operational infrastructure, they had only one maintenance window per year. Therefore, you can imagine it's difficult for them to keep them up to date, to install patches, and therefore even for the attacker, easy to access it.
And by the way, this is a very, very good point also to talk about a little more on SIEM systems and the weaknesses here. So SIEM in principle is a good technology. It's an enabling technology. But think about an example. You're a bank and you have a huge SIEM installation in place. And the main driver for you is PCI DSS compliance, for instance. You will implement all the detection rules based on PCI DSS, looking for credit card numbers in clear text and all these things. And we have seen customers which had the entire stack implemented, spent millions of euros for the technology stack, but looking for the wrong things. So they were not even able to discover cyber attacks because they were only focusing on stuff like PCI DSS compliance with their SIEM installation. And here, XDR solutions come into place and bringing a better advantage here because they bring all the detection capabilities per default with them. So you can't faulty implement them. Of course, you can switch certain functions on and off here, but it's much tougher to faulty implement those kind of solutions like the classical SIEM installations where you really need to have skilled people behind to use them in the right way.
I would say it's even also important to comply with BaFin, but it will not help you in the area of cyber resilience. And
absolutely,
therefore, both components are definitely necessary. What our measure, I would say, activity had looked like. First of all, we've initiated our incident response support. First, getting the necessary transparency, seeing where the attacker is already or still within the network, stop their attack, getting him out of the network, understanding how he has access to infrastructure to be able to keep him out in the future, and also understand the whole scope of the infrastructure. Because even if you start at a late moment without having, I would say, all the logs from the SIEM, it's almost impossible to find out what happened. And it's even take a long time. In this case, the customer had a SIEM platform. Therefore, it was a good basis for our analysts to find out what happened, where the attacker started, how the attacker were laterally moving within the infrastructure. And within this process, we started to plan together with the customer. As soon as we knew, we get the information about how the attacker accessed the network, how to remediate, how to keep him out in the future, how to clean up everything, and how to restart the infrastructure. Yeah, the creation of tactical as well as strategic roadmap, how to achieve afterwards a better cyber resilience, is quite important, because it would not have been the first company where the attacker is coming back, because if he was successful once, it could be also the same topic twice. Yeah, what we also had put on the roadmap on the customer is first a tabletop exercise. We planned together with the customer to execute this tabletop exercise every 6 months to ensure that the process about how to deal with such a crisis situation is in place and is working. Because in the first situation when the incident occurred, they were not able a crisis plan or a crisis organization. Therefore, it was also a challenge for us, and we had to take over the whole coordination of the incident, also on the customer side, which is quite challenging. We have realized this, we were able to do this, but it's much better if you're well prepared, have everything in place, and you know also on the customer side how to deal with those situations. We also implemented, as mentioned, an MDR solution with an enhanced visibility and defense capabilities, with our best practice set of defense rules, which even gives an immediate response for detected vulnerability threats. We also initiated there a project to use microsegmentation to safeguard the relevant assets, as well as limit the ability for attackers to move laterally within the network. Yeah, and last but not least, cyber recovery based on storage for quick and reliable recovery is quite important, because in this situation also the storage was encrypted, and therefore the backup and the storage were not accessible anymore.
So let's focus on that for a moment. This is one often underestimated issue. If you see threat actors working with ransomware, they often move in a way that they first encrypt your backups, because you didn't recognize when the backup is encrypted, right? You're not frequently looking into restoring backups. Once they did, they start encrypting your operational machines. So then you have nothing left for restoring the infrastructure. Therefore, it's really important to have an offline backup available these days. Then you might lose a week or a month for the offline backup, because the daily backup is doing, for comfortable reasons, only daily, for instance. But it's better than losing the entire data you had over the last decades stored.
Yeah.
And this is, apologize for my flu here. This is where really customers underestimate the situation, where you really need to focus on having these backups also available for the case that an attacker is able to get access to your systems.
And one topic I want to mention in addition is also one of our assets is we're operating 100,000s of servers. We know the techniques the customers or the companies are using quite well. We have also close contact with all the different vendors like NetApp, like Dell, and so on. Therefore, we also have very close collaboration when it comes to alternative recovery procedures. And for instance, also in this situation, we were able to recover in some cases data so that the customer was able to, even in some cases, start with older data, but he was not forced to even pay the ransom, because it's the worst case, because then we are financing the whole cycle, because as long as it is profitable, the attackers will do it, will proceed anyhow. Yeah. What we can achieve, we can definitely limit damages due to quick response and the professional response, as mentioned. We were able to intercept the ongoing attack, to stop the encryption process in some areas of the infrastructure. With the increased resilience, we were able to help the customer to even prevent an additional or a further attack, as well as ring fencing the activity of the attacker and stepwise moving him out of the network, as well as having there a clear roadmap how to get stepwise in a secure state afterwards, as soon as I would say the incident mode is finished. Yeah, the immediate action also is to improve the security posture. This company had a lot of services available out of the internet, at least also VPN access, third-party access without two-factor authentication. Therefore, it was almost impossible to identify which third-party access was a legitimate one and which was based on an attacker. Also, a strong foundation for the future business expansion, how to integrate security in their approach, how to secure the operational infrastructure was also something we have established afterwards. Yeah, and with the implementation of the security visibility, we have definitely limited the likelihood and the impact of future incidents. And we have seen definitely that the attacker tried to access it 2 times again, but we were immediately able to identify it, to stop it, and to push him out. Yeah, and with this, we have definitely achieved a long-term resilience improvement. And meanwhile, the customer has implemented a lot of different projects, like taking care about the security culture, implementing the necessary security measures in every area of the infrastructure he needs it. Yeah, with this, I think we're almost at the end. And yeah, know what to sell. I think it's even important to mention we're using internally the same technology, the same systems and everything we offer to our customers. Therefore, it's easy because we know it out of our own use, how to use it, how to make it efficiently. We provide end-to-end services, real end-to-end services, from the connectivity via security to the cloud. And this gives the customer also one contact, one responsible to take care about the security and the connectivity aspect on this regards. We also can help our customer to reduce the complexity by putting not best of breed solutions, by instead of having, I would say, best in class solutions by one vendor. We have selected the best of those, being able to secure the whole zero trust journey for our customers. Yeah, we generate transparency about risks by analyzing risks, helping our customers to mitigating them, and also in many cases lowering the TCO as well as the spendings on the customer side, because we often see that the customers are spending a lot for different techniques but do not use it adequately, and therefore they are inefficient. With the faster detection and response, it leads definitely in less costs of impact of an incident. And last but not least, we're supporting the CISO, the CSO in the transformation process to get rid of roadblocker, because security is in many companies seen as something limiting business development. But it should be more seen as an enabler. I would say a safeguarding process in behind. And if you implement security right, it's a value add. It's nothing you will limit you within your business development.
So I already tried to answer some questions here online in the chat function. Nevertheless, to sum it up, security is, I would say, a journey, Thomas, right? It's not a status you get with a single project, of course. And there's also one thing what we need to do different in my perspective in future. In the past, it was mainly driven by organizations looking for a specific vendor with specific, they like, say, I want to build security with this vendor. This brings you nowhere, in my view, because this is driving complexity, and you compare apples with apples at the very end, of course, but they differentiate only by 1 or 2%. And you need to find a trusted partner who helps you on that journey. who is able to bring in the capabilities here, because this complexity is often underestimated. And if all is good and running fine, you're not afraid about a complexity. But once the shit hits the fan here and an incident is happening, it often comes really to the truth. And then often, and Jared asked this question, customers then are in a mode what we call the headless chicken mode. They have no clue how to deal with that. They've never prepared for that because they were always only focusing on specific technologies. They never thought about what is critical for me, what do I need to rebuild first, what is out of less importance, how to prioritize that, how to get end-to-end visibility on the current status in such a situation. And this is where we try to help our customers, and we try to get in, help them reducing the complexity, help them to build the right technology to steer the complexity, and help them also to train on the right processes. So with that, we would open up for questions now. Happy to have your questions here.
Yeah, so